Okay, we'll now convene the Minturn Town Council meeting of October 1st, 2025. Roll call, please.
Brian here.
Tom here.
In there.
Dusty here.
Earl here, and I believe Kate will probably come in a bit, so she has to drive over from Keystone. Okay, so next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Come on in. Kate's here.
Pledge what we're doing.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Approval of the consent agenda, next item is only the minutes, so I'm assuming we can have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion by Gusty, seconded by Lynn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next is the regular agenda. Do we have any amendments? Okay, motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular agenda just presented.
I'll second it.
Motion by Gusty, seconded by Lynn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Does anyone on the board have a conflict of interest on any issue on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on. Now it's time for public comment. And this is the time where the public can address the board on any issues that are not on the agenda. And we have County Commissioner Tom Boyd with us tonight.
Hello,
Hello.
how's it going? It's good to see all you again. I think almost all of you I've met at one time or another. And I gotta just say, you know, the reason that I'm here is that we, the Eagle County Commissioners, Matt Scher, Jeannie McQueenie, and myself have initiated a new initiative. Just having heard over the last couple of years about trying to maintain contact with the folks and partners in our municipalities throughout Eagle County, that we ought to come by meetings more often, just see how y'all are doing, listen to how your business is going, and make sure that we're present. In order to do that, we wanted to be able to represent one another, meaning that I'm here representing Eagle County and I'm representing the Board of County Commissioners, Commissioner McQueenie, Commissioner Scher, your former mayor, I see him up there on the wall, and myself. And to do that, we just had to put what you'd call the public process in motion. So we will be hopefully showing up from time to time, not just here, but in basalt and in gypsum and in bale and everything else. And that is to make sure that the lines of communication are open, that you all know what we have going on. If you want to ask questions, I'm happy to do that now, but I also can take your calls, emails as we do. And I know we do see each other at mayors and managers. We also do a rotating meeting where we will go and meet with as a Board of Commissioners in a public meeting with municipalities. We just finished one up in Red Cliff. That was really neat. It's always neat to go up there.
Yeah.
But we didn't feel like that was enough. So that's why I'm here today. And I'll just do a real quick, keeping it real brief because I know it's a 3-minute time limit.
We might give you another minute.
And just to say, well, first of all, to say hello. Thanks for all your service. What do we have going on in Eagle from the county board perspective right now? Well, we recently voted to put on the ballot a 2% lodging tax increase. And that does not apply in Minturn. A lot of folks may have questions about that, but it might positively impact Minturn. You know, when I first moved kind of back to the valley with my family, I grew up here in West Vale and used to come here all the time and everything, but when I moved back, we couldn't find childcare. I was living in Edwards, went up and down the valley, and I found a spot in Pooh Corner for my oldest son at the time. I think it was like 4. And boy, it was tough. And as you know, that's a major issue. If we're able to pass this 2% lodging increase, the dollars would go to childcare, existing childcare programs, and wildfire mitigation and personnel. So we feel that ultimately this is the right decision for our community. We did communicate with the lodging community. About 86% of our lodging tax dollars do come from the Beaver Creek area. We ultimately decided, and we had the statutory ability to raise that up to 6% total lodging tax. we heard that that would put them in a non-competitive or too tough of a position in the competitive lodging market. So we only voted to increase it 2% to a total of 4%. We think this will give us, dollars to help continue some of our great childcare programs, including subsidizing teacher pay, and that could positively impact the new childcare facility you have right here in Minturn, and also childcare facilities up and down the valley, as well as continue to work on wildfire mitigation, which after the summer I think we can all agree is pretty darn important. So we wanted to let you know about that one, and also we're always doing lots of things in the Eagle County. I could probably pick 9 or 10 different things to bring up today, but the one I will say is we are celebrating the Three Rivers open space purchase made earlier this year. A beautiful over 4,000 acres there up in the Cottonwood Pass area. The plan for that is going to be looked at and determined over the next 2 years, but by gosh, I was up there the other day and it's absolutely gorgeous, beautiful land that is going to be very important for wildlife preservation, open space preservation, and everything else. So that's something we're really happy about. Lots of other issues, obviously, but just wanted to come by, say hello, introduce myself. Like I say, I think I know most of you, but wanted to be present. And congrats on your new town manager. He's doing an excellent job.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any questions I can answer or any thoughts?
Just the monies for childcare. What form is that going to take as far as are you supporting existing childcare, or is it just increasing more infrastructure?
Yeah, it's a great point. Like right now, out of that 2% lodging tax, we get about $3 million a year. That goes up and down depending on what's going on with lodging tax. About 1.6 million of that has been spent enhancing teacher pay with the $500 stipend. That has made a critical difference, not only in supporting our teachers, but in making sure that that's a professional track that people choose. What happens ultimately is that sometimes we're trying to expand capacity of the system. We're anywhere between 1,500 to 2,500 slots short. Well, a lot of those slots are because we don't have enough teachers. So that's a great way to make sure that we can have more space, more places to put young kids, and that our working families have a place that they can drop their kid off and feel confident, secure, that they can go to work. They do a better job at work, and it does improve our economy in so many other ways. I think that's proven. But also we have given dollars to a little bit in the brick and mortar space. We gave $1 million grant in partnership with the town of Avon, the Vail Valley Foundation, to help create a child care center there. That will increase capacity, and I think up and down the valley we have opportunities to increase capacity. But you can build all the buildings you want if you don't have teachers to staff them. You're not going to be able to fill it with little ones. So you want to make sure the teachers are there too. Yeah.
Can I add also that you can add all the capacity you want, pay the teachers a lot, hopefully. The cost of just doing business up here means that childcare is I like to call it a new shiny mountain bike going out the door every month. So if there's any way to, hopefully that'll help the providers keep the care affordable for locals too.
Tuition assistance is a way. That's right. Sorry to interrupt, Ryan. But tuition assistance is another way that we do spend some of those dollars. It is possible with an additional 2%, which again, an additional 3 to 4 million, we could look at more tuition assistance. In a perfect world, I'd like to see no family in Eagle County spend more than 7% of their income on childcare. That is about a $25 million gap. We're about $25 million away from being able to do that. Now, I'll tell you what, if you do that, I think it can really set your economy booming, because everyone will want to be a part of a community that takes care of folks like that. And then your businesses aren't searching around for workers, and your workers are happy. I remember when I was a kid in the service industries that all my parents and my friends' parents worked in, they were happy and welcoming those tourists every single day because they were confident that they knew their kids were being taken care of, that their pay was commensurate with their cost of living. And right now, we work in 3 or 4 jobs, you're probably not going to be quite that level of service that you'd like to see, or at least I'd like to see us return to that. And I think that starts with taking care of the workforce.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Thanks so much, y'all. Say hi to Woody Lynn. You and I met through Woody through the water. Now it's the Eagle River Coalition. All that. Gusty, you and I have met once in a while. Tom, I'm not sure you and I have had a chance to meet.
We just have the same name.
Yeah, that's a darn good one, isn't it? It's the best one. And Kate is that same thing. But thanks, y'all. I hope this has started many other interactions. Please let us know how we can be a good partner as a county.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
I'll stick around and see how business goes here.
Sounds like
You have some interesting stuff I see. You got some barracks here, so it must be interesting. I don't want to be in the front row anymore. I'm coming back here with you guys.
Okay, so we're still in public comment. Is there any others who wish to address the board? Please state your name and address.
Hello, the Honorable Board. My name is Megan. I live at 262 Main Street. And forgive me, I really wanted to be here before now, but like most of you, I'm busy. I have a job. I have a dog. I'm here today. And forgive me, I had something prepared, but it's hot garbage, so I'm going to try and speak from my heart. I'm here today to speak for our neighbors who cannot speak for themselves. The neighbors who can't come to these meetings, most specifically speaking about the bears. Okay? I'm sure you all know we're in a season called hyperphagia from now until the end of October. These bears are extra hungry. Okay? They're extra hungry. And I am, by the grace of God, living here in Minturn, where I walk my dog twice a day, every single day. And every single day, I find a trash receptacle that has been broken into and trash that has been strewn into the street. And this morning was the straw that broke this camel's back. I walked myself past one of our lovely restaurants here in town, and I found a 100-gallon grease receptacle that had been broken open, tipped over, and drained into the storm drain. So the bears are now affecting the rest of our wildlife. And as members of this community, I know that you all care as much as I do about this wildlife because it is part of what makes life here so profoundly wonderful, but we have to do something differently. And I understand that this is not easy and this is not singular. This is not an issue that simply comes down to the people that are securing the trash or the trash haulers providing better receptacles. But I'm here today to urge you to consider both because we need a new solution because it is not working. This is going into our creeks. It's affecting the quality of our water. I, just before this meeting, spent 30 minutes of my time picking up what little trash I could. If you're interested in it, there's 40 pounds outside your window. I do that weekly, if not daily, okay? So the illusion that this is not a big problem is because myself and many of my neighbors care enough to pick it up. There are solutions, and I think we can find them, and I'm here today in part to volunteer myself to try and make this better as a community, but we have to do better because we have yet to have a wildlife conflict in this community, but we are going to create one if we don't do better by these animals. I also wanted to take this time and say, Jay, I have a question for you. In my kind of experience in trying to better understand where we're at as a community, I've reached out to multiple trash haulers in our community. It's my understanding that the town of Minturn has a contract that all of our residential trash is hauled by Honey Wagon. Is that correct? It is also my understanding that Honey Wagon has a system in place where they are to report to you and citizens are to report to you every time a trash receptacle is compromised and broken into. Is that information that you have?
Yes.
Do you feel that information is accurate?
What I get and what people tell me might be two different things. I mean, a lot of people don't call.
That's part of this, right? This is about finding a workable solution. And I think a lot of it is that people are ashamed or embarrassed, feel under-resourced or don't know how, but we can work as a community to do better by our neighbors who can't be here today. So I just wanted to take this time to say thank you for having me and whatever I can do to support our neighbors who can't come to a microphone and say, hey, trash sucks. It's a terrible diet. I'm here for it. So thank you for your time. And that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the input. We'll get it together better hopefully soon. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishes to address the board? Just so you know, we're in public comment right now, so if you have anything you want to address the board with on any issue that's not on the agenda, you're welcome to come up. If not, then no problem.
Nothing here.
Okay. Okay, moving on, we have the council and committee reports. Okay.
I did have the meeting with the VVMTA crew over at the bike park last week, and they're actually out there working. And I just wanted to thank Public Works for helping to move the shed. We're gonna make some changes over there to basically create a new kids skill zone. A lot of the community have noticed, especially after Eagles Bike Park was built, that there was more little kids friendly features. So the crew at VVMTA it created a new zone over where the shed used to be, and is working this week and next week to put up some shade structure and some kid kind of strider friendly features out there for the little young ones in the community to play on, and hopefully get that done before winter. So pretty exciting for anybody with a little one on little wheels.
Will it be done before the snow flies?
That's the goal, yeah. They're trying to do it as cheaply as possible.
Yeah.
They got some engineering plans from some of these other big bike maker, they make bike parks and stuff. They're trying to value engineer those and get them done before the winter closure. So exciting.
Cool. Tom, got it?
Just want to thank Public Works and Rob, Mike and the crew, now our new Public Works Director. We're almost done zero-scaping more than half the MFC. So we're good there. And to augment that, fortunately, between residents and non-residents, the last 3 months is the highest revenue we've ever had in the history of that place. So things are looking good.
Yay.
And the only thing I have to report is from the Eagle River Fire District. We convened a labor committee that's going to be meeting monthly, and we're discussing collective bargaining agreement terms and handbook terms and general policies of the district.
Thank you, Lynn. We did receive the 90% design from HDR yesterday, and that was immediately signed off by Rob and then sent to CDPHE, so that's in their hands now. Do you have any idea when the estimates are going to come through on that?
The cost estimates, not quite yet.
Okay.
The updated ones, but I can follow up with Jared.
All right, so we'll anxiously await to hear from that as well. So, okay. What's next? We have staff reports. Anything you want to highlight on your manager's report?
Our new Public Works employee Grant, he started this week. Been out at the fitness center. We run into him to say hi. We're really happy to have him. We've extended another offer for another employee. We haven't gotten a confirmation back on that one, but we're feeling a lot better than when we talked to you about this last time. So I think we'll be able to have full staffing by the end of October. And we've been making some progress on the housing, which I did put in there, but I just wanted to show you. Let me make sure. Let's share the screen here. It's like easy to see, but I'll send it an email too. The 3-bedroom apartment that we have here in Town Hall, this is kind of its current condition. That's the second bathroom. Let me show you the kitchen area, just so you get an idea of it's in relatively good shape. I mean, it's early 2000s construction, but what we decided to do was just repaint the walls, take out the carpet, which I think was nearly original.
It's been replaced once.
Once? Okay, so maybe it's like 10, 15-year-old carpet. And we've been putting in vinyl plank, which is, waterproof, a bit more durable. But before that, we have some significant cracks in the subfloor. I'll show you a picture of that, like this. So we've got somebody in here that had been sanding it down and then refilling those. And today, as we speak right now, they're putting in the vinyl plank. We got it at Costco. Great deal. So this apartment will be filled by a town employee probably November 1st. So that's great news for us. Any questions? We do have First Friday at Kirby's this week.
on Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. Let me see, you brought up the submittal to CDPHE. I met with CDOT Maintenance Superintendent, the Deputy Kane Schneider this morning, just to talk to them, get introduced to them. Because I know the last meeting we were a little concerned about where we're going to be with being prepared for snow removal. So I reached out to CDOT. So they decided to come in and talk to me this morning. Reached out to Avon and the county, just in case we were in a situation we needed help. Avon doesn't have that kind of capacity, but the county said if we were in a situation where we needed help, they would be there to help us. I don't think we'll be in that situation, but I appreciate them responding. Lynn and I met with one more broker yesterday. That went really well. I think we're going to update you on the 15th. We finally have kind of closed that out. We were awarded, as I put in here, the OEDIT Rural Technical Assistance for promoting your recreation economy. We're going to have some students from CU Boulder here in the early spring. That's exciting. And we did submit that grant app this morning for the CPW Trail Planning Grant for Little Beach Park and the bike park. So any questions or concerns for staff that we need to follow up on, look into?
Guess not.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Rob. Okay, now we have special presentations here from the, what is it, the wildlife or wildfire? I always get wildfire. Right? Yeah.
We already had the wildlife presentation, so we'll hop into wildfire now.
So we have Eric, Paul, and Stacy here to give us an update.
Yeah. Not Peter, Paul, and Mary. We're not going to be singing, which is good for all of you here. So,
You're welcome to.
no, that's not a good idea. Eric is in a band, if we don't know that. He had his banjo today, though. So I'm Stacy. I'm with the Eagle County Wildfire Collaborative. You can all hear. Well, I guess you can hear me. All right, I'm Stacy with the Eagle County Wildfire Collaborative, and we're here today just to give an update on some code things, and these guys are going to jump into codes a little bit here, but one of the top priorities of our 2023 CWPP Community Wildfire Protection Plan that we brought the whole community together to produce, was reducing structural ignitability and improving wildfire resilience. And that was the top priority from our collaborative, was to work on that goal out of the CWPP. And so one of the things we did with that goal was we created a WUI code working group. WUI, Wildland Urban Interface. In my time in fire, I've learned that all we are is acronyms, and we could have this whole conversation in letters, but I'll try to explain it in a way that I can understand it. So this WUI code working group is made up of planners and municipalities, building departments of the municipalities, the county, the open space and natural resources, the Eagle River Coalition, who else? The Conservation District, all of us coming together since February of 2024, working together to work on countywide WUI codes, like a single codes countywide to help really reduce that structural ignitability and improve wildfire resistance. And then I'm going to let these guys kind of chime in. Paul's going to talk now a little bit more specific, my words, on codes. Again, not singing or speaking well.
Good evening. I'm Paul Cato with Vail Fire. Want to just touch on, kind of a side thing besides the CWPP. In 2023, a state legislature passed SB 23-166, which was a bill that created it created the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code Board, which is basically, it's the state board that was charged with developing a statewide wildland urban interface code. And the intention of that was to establish a minimum code that applies statewide to all areas with a wildfire risk. All of Eagle County has a wildfire risk, if that's new to everybody. So the code board was established to define this minimum code. So between 2023 and July of this year, they went through an exhaustive process of developing the statewide minimum code, as well as the area where that applies. And what that code board and what the minimum code requires is implementation of ignition resistant building materials and landscaping around new construction and additions over 500 square feet. And I think that's super important to think about as we talk about code changes. What does that really apply, and how does that affect the existing construction here within the community? And what's really important to note on that is existing structures, none of this code language would apply to existing structures. So it will only be to new construction or additions over 500 square feet. Part of SB 23166 requires that local jurisdictions adopt either the statewide minimum code or an equivalent or more stringent version of that. And that is required to happen, adoption by April 1st, 2026, with implementation by July 1st, 2026. So, in the code world, code adoption, that's a fairly short runway, if you will. However, the efforts that we've been going through here locally since 2024 really, I think, aligns a lot of the jurisdictions here in Eagle County to have a hopefully fairly smooth implementation of these types of codes. Without getting super deep into the codes, the minimum code requires the inclusion of ember-resistant roofing, siding, and then landscaping up to 100 feet from the structure. So that's kind of the high-level overview of what the requirements are within that state code. So with that, I'll pass it over to Eric, and he can touch on a little bit of what we've been doing locally.
Thanks, Paul. So we've had a WUI code, or wildfire regulations, on the books in Eagle County now since 2003, adopted in 2004. So we've been working in this space for a long time, and I think that generally speaking, it's well received by both the community as well as the development community and everybody that's associated with that. In fact, in some situations, we have people that really want us to do more, perhaps more than is reasonable in a governance standpoint or just in private property rights. But we have a bunch of different things. We have wildfire risk, we have increasing wildfire activity and danger across multiple years, this year included, and insurance volatility as well. So like Stacy said, in 2023, when we finished the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, one of the priorities that the group agreed on through the Wildfire Collaborative was to develop this unified code. So Eagle County is in the process of updating our land use regulations as well, pretty well when we're to this point. So we're adopting a similar code, working with the WUI group to make sure to bring some uniformity to all of this. We have a model code that the group has agreed works for our needs mostly and is currently in being implemented in Vail. So, Paul has good insights on what that looks like. We've been working to kind of cross-reference that with existing construction patterns and development, architectural design standards that we see in place. We're starting to work with HOAs now, as well as all the towns. We've been working with Eagle and Avon and Vail, obviously, extensively, and moving this kind of roadshow around to make sure that people have some good awareness around this, because we all have until next year to have something in place, and then to offer our ability to collaborate with staff like we're already doing with Kevin, and to look at how we might begin to implement this in a unified fashion by summer of next year, with one model code that will become an amendment to the International Building Code or the International Residential Code, or both, which is our plan. And what we like about that is it allows for jurisdictional control through the community development departments. So we have some code language and process that we've been developing since last year, and what we think it'll look like, and we've been working with staff across the jurisdictions to begin that implementation process, because as Paul said, we don't have a whole lot of time, but we're in it together. And I think what we've heard from everybody that works and lives in Eagle County is that it's problematic when you could have one set of regulations from one jurisdiction to the next. So we're here in the spirit to try to skip on down the road hand in hand together. So anything else, team, that before we do some Q&A? Yeah, did you have? You guys got it. So, I'm guessing you have questions.
Sure.
Yeah.
So with the I'm assuming you're planning on taking the the template from the state and then just doing regional enhancements for that, or are you gonna is it just gonna be this code?
So you have an option, right? You can adopt the state minimum standards, which at a high level are, you have a mapping component to it that's produced by the state that labels areas based on certain degrees of wildfire hazard ratings. And that transfers over into code requirements, building requirements per that hazard rating. So there's kind of a big capacity issue there, especially for smaller jurisdictions who might have a building department of 1 or 2 people and planning same. So what we like about the model code that we're proposing, we all adopt together into the IBC and IRC, is that it's a standard approach that would be applicable to all areas identified as wildland urban interface. So for Minturn, that's all of it. And I think if you live here, you realize you're surrounded on both sides. So, and honestly, for unincorporated Eagle County, by developing a parcel, it becomes wildland urban interface and subject to the code in general. So we're talking about a standard, a performance-based standard for things like landscaping, and then a code package that we've seen implemented and working in Vail that we've all been kind of discussing and studying for the last 18 months and feel like we can get behind. That's focused on ember resistance primarily, that comes with a database of materials that either meet the code or not, and their location. So, if you had to buy ignition resistant decking materials for your new project here in Minturn, you could look at the database and find out if the material you're after meets the code and if it's available at Home Depot here in Avon, or if you have to drive to Glenwood or something like that. So that database provides another level of help, I think, for people that are trying to figure out their way through this code, and a standard approach rather than having to apply different material requirements per hazard rating.
So is there any economic ways of taking an existing structure and making it ember resistant?
It depends on the scope of the work. Obviously, switching out your roof from, say, a wood shake roof to a metal or asphalt composite shingle roof would be the most meaningful mitigation action to protect against embers, but that's pretty high dollar. With new construction, right, if we just build it right the first time, there's no net gain in cost. But yeah, retrofits, depending on what you're doing, could be very expensive, or you could say, without getting into the weeds on mitigation actions, you could look at where dormer projections and other complexities in the roof might provide a place for embers to trap, and lodging in wood siding, and install metal flashing there, or screening the vents to your attics or soffits or crawl spaces. And so the spectrum of mitigation actions are different too. And with retrofits, yeah, they can be considerably more expensive. But new construction is pretty much the same if you build it to code from the start.
Only because you're all standing there, and I'll shift over to the W and WUI from the U. We asked quite some time ago on Forest Service side of the house, due to Cougar Ridge, et cetera, the ability to augment their personnel, since they're woefully undermanned, to start to do mitigation efforts, deadfall, backhaul, et cetera. What, if any, effort has occurred to kind of breach that, to assist Forest Service under their supervision to augment them to do that? Because Cougar Ridge right here is waiting to go.
Yeah, I'm not 100%. You mean waiting to go in the sense that it can burn, right? Not waiting to go in that it's project shovel ready. Yeah, okay. So that's
shovel ready after it burns.
Yeah, there'll be lots of shovels up there trying to keep it out of town. So, ultimately, that was one of the impetus for the development of the Eagle Valley Wildland Program, which, I guess I could speak to a bit in looking at how we could use fire district personnel and bring on additional folks to help with development and implementation of projects, as well as to, provide a higher level of wildfire suppression tactic knowledge. A lot of the people on that team are former hotshots, and, people like Paul Cato who have an awful lot of suppression experience as well as mitigation implementation knowledge. So that was one element to try to aim at that. And then I think generally one of the bigger barriers we see with doing work on public lands, particularly in the White River National Forest, is a lack of completed NEPA. So that National Environmental Policy Act requiring environmental impact statements and alternatives and public approval process. And we're pretty mired down in the ability to do that. In fact, for the Booth Creek project in Vail, maybe Paul could talk about what it's like to work through that. They had to largely fund that themselves to get past that NEPA hurdle and get work implemented.
If you sidestep the bus, you're supposed to get under.
I'm gonna,
Yeah.
because Paul knows exactly
Sure.
what it's like to get a project
Yeah.
on the boundaries of town completed.
Yeah, and you know, I can speak, you know, we've been in a partnership with White River for 7 years now to get a project to implementation ready. And, you know, my advice to council is, you know, really the key holder to that one is the district ranger here. And being in the district ranger's ear and ensuring that they understand the priority that it is to the community here. You know, ultimately, in the end, you know, Vail Town Council decided it was a high enough priority where we funded a large part of the environmental analysis on that. You know, that helps to show the partnership from the community side. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, it's the staff of the White River National Forest that are responsible and required to do the environmental analysis, which is really just the first step in all of that. So,
And I know the Eagle River Fire District applied for to get the permit to do mitigation some years ago, and they were just turned down. It wasn't put on delay; they were turned down. So I think it is a question of making more noise and putting more political pressure on the government.
yeah, I would.
As well as helping with the funding.
Yeah, you know, you have a strong voice of the local community, and obviously you are very directly impacted by what happens or doesn't happen on the adjoining national forest.
Getting back to code real quick, are there areas where you see like direct conflict between local codes that are in place and what you're trying to put out? Like something that would come to mind would be like PUD landscaping requirements, like where we're saying you have to do one thing, but you all would like be like, that's not recommended. Or I mean, we're lucky enough to be going through a big code update right now, and we can it's a good time to keep some of that in mind as we go through that.
I think particularly around the landscaping, there is the potential where you have a conflict between a historic PUD requirement and, you know, kind of what's the contemporary needs from a wildfire perspective. So, you know, if there are, you know, an open process for revisions of PUDs, I think this is a great time. You know, really what the code directs towards is what has been in the recommended space for fire mitigation for multiple decades now. So, you know, the concepts of defensible space are, you know, not new or novel. You know, they're well tested. And, you know, I think what we're really working on right now is crafting specific language that can be inserted into PUD revisions to be included into, you know, town code, you know, that kind of stuff. So.
I'll jump in on that one real quick. Yeah, and with our land use rewrite, we're trying to move away from PUD, but we have an awful lot of them, some big ones like Cordillera and elsewhere. So we've had an opportunity to impact those PUD guidelines if they're up for review. But then again, I think when you look at the language we're proposing around landscaping, it's very performative in nature so that it can kind of hope to jive with existing codes. And we walk around areas around water conservation and turf reduction, wildlife impacts, making sure we're not using vegetation that's, say, drawing bears into the neighborhood as well, or dropping cranberries on the sidewalk and impacting bikes and wheelchairs. It's like we're trying to really take a harder look at landscaping with a variety of different lenses, but recognizing things are a little different from Vail and Minturn to Eagle or Gypsum and Salt, so maintaining some sort of local control inside of that, and it'll probably look like updates to land use regulations around landscaping probably, or PUD guidelines.
And I think sometimes there's the potential for tension with the hardscape requirements in the codes that require a certain percentage of the lot.
That's like one that
That
would be another example.
limit the amount of non-water soluble surface. And maybe that's one of the things we could take another look at.
Yeah,
because
I want
You
to
don't
put
want-
in impervious space, but I'm not allowed to because my lot
Impervious,
coverage is over.
impervious, yes. And
Yeah.
you don't want wood chips next to your house any longer.
That's right. Yeah, well, we can mulch places, but we don't want it in that first 5 feet. Or
Yeah.
that fire-free 5 feet is a tagline, and it's actually in the code in Vail. That's the next step up from there. But it doesn't have to be impervious either. We do a lot with gravel and stone and river rock, or even just vegetative ground covers. We talked about xeriscaping a minute ago, like succulents and that kind of thing too. So we're moving away from woody shrubs and trees within 5 feet of the structure, which is problematic from a number of reasons, but primarily from a wildfire standpoint. But generally speaking, in Eagle County, we plant trees very close to houses, and there's more reasons not to. So that's where we're holding the line on that first 5 feet. But then, we've put in some, in Vail and Eagle, and certainly in Minturn, right, we're talking about small lot sizes as well, and opportunities for clustering of trees and approved plants versus disapproved plants, and room to wiggle around in there and make it work for the jurisdiction that's impacted.
Any other questions for the guys while they're here? And girls? Okay, thank you. Appreciate the
Thank you.
presentation. Your work is critical.
I suppose we'll continue to work with staff and probably have something that's a little more detailed and looking like a resolution or language for adoption when we see you next time.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you, Steve.
Guys. Nice work. It's excellent. It's good stuff.
Okay, next item on the agenda
It's on everybody's minds. Thanks, Stacy. That was great.
is business items.
Good job. See you
We
soon.
have J World coming up.
I will try to move through this pretty quickly. There's a lot to cover. I know this is about exciting for most people is watching paint dry. So with that in mind, Madison, if you'll bring up that PowerPoint.
Where's your tie, Jay?
While I'm doing that, will you please move?
I didn't bring it again. I know. I'm batching it this week, so I was all confused this morning. And the dogs were hungry.
So we need to move this to the 15th.
Jake, where's correct tie?
Jay, please move the camera.
Here.
This first slide is just the key priorities that we try to look at the staff level. We're looking at infrastructure and services, managed growth, affordability, economic development, environmental responsibilities. It's anticipated in 25 will be a year to rebuild, in 26 will be a year of rebuilding. In 25, we lost about 50% of our staff. So there's going to be some rebuilding, some training, people getting their feet wet and then getting them dry again. We have hired we've moved Michael Martinez up to Public Works Director, as you're aware of. We've got one person that we've hired. We have 3 more Public Works technicians that we're looking at, so it'll be a total staff of 5. If we can get to that, we've got one offer out, one hired and an offer out right now. I don't know where that's standing as of right now, but these changes are going to require some time, training, adjustment, the whole 9 yards. My intent during this first meeting in October is to highlight some of the items that allow the council and public to questions. I've listed a few of the counts below that I think are important. Often what I think is important might not be what you do, so please ask. Slide 2, Madison. The property tax is estimated to increase 22%. It sounds like, oh my gosh. In 2026 was 2025 was a reassessment year, so it hits in 26, and it went up 22%. With that in mind, between 2019 and 25, we've grown over 39%. That sounds again like a big number. It averages out to about 7%, about 5.5% annually over the 7 years, including a reduction of 4% between 2023 and 24, and again, a 2% decrease in 2024 to 25. So yes, we've gone up. A lot of this has been the changes have been caused by state legislation and by statewide election ballot issues that have changed how the assessed valuation is actually done. Those have actually artificially kept the numbers low. We won't go into if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it does. The lodging tax, our lodging tax for residential property only increased from 1.5 to 6.5% about a year ago in November last year. Again, this is only for residential, and the reason it's only for residential is because the commercial values are so much more. They're about 4 or 5 times more than the residential assessments.
Yes, minutes, fun stuff.
I was like, or minutes, I was like.
Madison, you've got your mic on.
Yes,
The
thank you.
2026 general fund budget is estimated to decrease about 9%, about 10%, almost 11% over 2025. We can go into why if you guys have questions, but it is decreasing. Yes, ma'am.
I just have one question that I've been actually wondering about this for some time. At some point, it seems to me that we should take a percentage of the town manager's salary and it's being paid by the enterprise fund.
We will, thank you for bringing that up. We will definitely I'll go through kind of where, as we get to the enterprise fund, what is actually paid out of that. And we can, it's a very simple move to do. We moved it for a host of reasons, and we can move it back for the same host of reasons.
Yeah, and I know why we moved it and good reasons, but it disguises, I think, a little bit of how the costs, how extensive the costs are in the enterprise fund.
Before we get to that, and for you guys to think about, before we switched to the manager being paid out of the general fund fully, I think it was 75-25. So just to think about that, that's a thought.
And I remember Michelle would always say.
On that same topic, though, I was reading through the draft budget, and I did see on there where it showed $30,000 that we never paid in 26, like for the manager position. It's in the draft budget, and you look under enterprise, and you go back and it says general manager, and on 2026 it's showing 30,000. And I know last year when we talked about this and we decided to do away with it, I felt pretty good about it. And one reason why I did was, I know George has brought this up in the past, was when this building was built, part of the enterprise fund paid for it. They paid, I think, 25% or 30% of the debt service on this building. Now the building is paid off. None of the money that is coming in for the rents is going back to the enterprise fund. It's all going into the general fund. And with that being, I figured it was kind of a wash then with the salary on the town manager.
Two things. I will find out about the 30,000 because I want to make sure that I've got it right.
Yeah, it's in the back underneath the enterprise part. I can show it to you if you need to.
Maybe it's just a bookkeeping issue.
And it basically, yeah, that's kind of what I was saying is that there's about 80 pages I can make a mistake on. I tend to do it on every page, just to be fair, somewhat tongue in cheek. I think the reason that came up is I was kind of discussing it with myself before, after Michelle left and before we brought Rob on. And then as we brought Rob on, it just sort of leaned towards being the way it is now. That's not right or wrong. Your second point is the rents for this building do not go to the general fund. They actually go to the capital fund. And we'll get to that in a second too. I just want to, we're not just.
But none of it goes back to the enterprise fund, is what I'm trying to.
And it doesn't
emphasize.
directly. It does not directly. You're correct.
And not to be nitpicky or whatever, but it's not just the salary of the town manager, but the overhead of the town.
The benefits and whatnot,
And
yes.
that would include part of this building too. But I don't know if anybody ever looks at these things,
Not normally, because I don't get a lot of questions on it.
I mean, in terms of other governmental entities looking at it or questioning it.
No, the strongest one they look at is to make sure that we're not doing any contribution to the enterprise fund that we shouldn't be doing. Because we're restricted by law for that.
About 10 or 12 years ago, council requested a survey. Because what we're trying to do, we don't have department heads. So the manager and public works people, they have to kind of divide their time between whether it's the water system or their snow plowing and all that kind of stuff. And so we wanted to see how the labor split up, and it was pretty much as it had been. Roughly, it's around 50 to 50%.
That's Michelle.
But that was on that time before we actually hired John Volcon, and then now we got all the meters changed, so I'm sure it's dropped some with what they do.
So, and I don't want to get too far off because we're going to be here all night. However, I still use the same timesheet that I did when I did that survey. And so they fill out by hours, how many hours a day they're doing X or Y. It is not exact. I mean, I've never understood how an attorney can say, I did 3 minutes here and 10 minutes there, but I want them to keep working and getting their job done. But at the same point, we do need to know what the value of that is. I tend to spend as much time on one as the other. I really do. So that's mine. My salary is actually 50-50. At one point, the town manager was, I believe it was 70-30 or 70, and then it went to 75-25. And then up until we had the staff turnover, and we got down to one person, we had two people that were actually paid 25% out of the enterprise fund, 75 out of the general fund, and then the other two were paid out of the general fund. So that's kind of how we split it. When we came up with the study that I did, and I admit I did it, it was about as well as I could get. It's just a time and motion study of what are you doing each day? And it came out that pretty much 50-50, that I would have a couple of people, I could pay basically 2 out of the enterprise and 2 out of the general fund, and it was pretty equitable. A lot of those studies only go like 2 weeks or 2 months or 3 months. I actually took this one 12 months, and I went all the way through it, and every pay period I divvied it out. And Gusty, to your point with like John Volk, he is actually paid 100% out of the enterprise fund. And I think at staff level, I hear council at staff level. I would definitely get with Rob, and we'll kind of discuss where we need to be and what we need to do. If we need to show it differently, then we'll go with that.
Maybe that's really a question for Mike to answer.
Mike.
For what?
Yeah, in terms of the constraints on us. Then how accurate we need to be.
Right.
Mike's right.
And I deal with this quite a bit with the auditors as well. I want to make sure everybody understands, and I say this 1,000 times, but for the public as well, we are required as a municipality to be audited every year. It's not because I did something wrong. I want to assure everybody that. In fact, I do the exact opposite. The auditor always looks at payroll, and I say, look at mine, and then look at anybody else. But I really direct them to look at me specifically. And the reason I do for any of that is because I do the bank statements, I cut the checks, it's my eyes. I've got 2 other people that sign checks. I don't sign checks at all. And it can be somewhat onerous on the council and to Rob and whatnot. And the reason is because if I'm looking at everybody, and then nobody else is looking at the stuff. And I've seen people literally go to jail for stuff like that. And that's not going to happen here. Slide number 3. So slide number 3 the town of Minturn has a 17.934 mill levy. I've got that ingrained in my brain. It has not changed in over 25 years. Coincidentally, I've been here for over 25. Basically what happens is the economy is flush and going up, then our revenues for property tax go up. As it goes down, or we're in a bad economy, which has happened, ours go down just the same way as everybody else. We just tighten our belt like along with everybody else. And so then when the state comes through and does elections and this legislature, we get kind of a double whammy. I will tell you again, I budget fairly, but very conservatively. So if somebody says, can we afford $100,000? I really do have to search for that. If somebody comes up and says, what about a $5,000? Can we do this differently? Yes, we probably can find that. There are other line items that we have, for example, the streets and sidewalks for public works, which we'll get to, that I budget 125. And I talked to Mike about that, Michael Martinez, and I said, so what's in that? And I said, I don't know, you tell me. You tell me what that involves, because that's what it's for. It's for them to be able to come up and say, we broke this sidewalk, or something happened here, we need to fix that. Again, our mill levy is 17.934. The total mill levy for the town, and that includes the fire districts, the school district, everything, is 66.221, which puts us at about 27% of that total mill levy. Rental owners submit sales tax to the town of Minturn for their property tax, for their, the lodging tax. They contribute, they pay the state the sales tax on the regular sales tax. And there's a couple of reasons for that. There have been times that people have paid a lodging tax or sales tax and I come through and don't see the other side of it. So I'll call them up and go, hey, I'm kind of missing something here. Or I haven't seen them file in a while. And then, I'm doing long-term this year. I'm just keeping the license, something like that. But I see all of the lodging tax come in, and then I see the sales tax. The bad side of that is that try getting information out of something like Airbnb, they just pay us. I don't really know what they're paying, but they have been audited by some of the larger state municipalities like Denver and whatnot, and they do come out pretty even. They come out pretty clean. The sales tax, for budget purposes, I use the prior 2 years in comparison to the year-to-date current collections and develop a reasonable number. I used to go back a little bit further, but they added the online sales tax, that now you pay sales tax where it's actually the service is done, not where you buy it from. So if you buy it Lands End out of Maine, you actually pay sales tax in Minturn. For most of 2025 thus far, we've been month over month above 2025, and actually 25 is above 24, 25 is above 24, and 24 is above 23. That's a positive for me. A lot of that you would think is just because of the sales tax from online sales. That actually covers about 25% of our overall sales tax. So they're all going up, in truth. I think it actually represents 28%. The town has seen multiple PUD development applications, which finally are coming to fruition. Minturn North is one of them. It's difficult to predict when the development will occur and when the units will actually be occupied. So again, I budget realistically, but conservatively. Comes into play when we get to the capital fund and we start the construction use tax. Currently, we have 8 leases on the lease lot, which is up by the Public Works Department. I used to call it my little lemonade stand because it was just sort of a side pocket of money that we were bringing in that wasn't taxed. It was a fee-based thing. That's $156,400 that I'm looking at in 2026. The diversified income is 15% of our estimated amount collected in property tax. It's 12% of our sales tax in comparison, and it's about 5% of our entire general fund revenue. So it's not small potatoes, but it's not going to save us. In recent years, the town's earned upwards of 5.5% interest on the cash that we keep it at Colo Trust. Try getting 5.5% anywhere, and have it liquid enough to be able to use. There's recent signs that this will probably go down a little bit. Yet it's still a far cry from, I believe it was 2012 or 13 that we had our lowest at $2,800 in interest. And that's what happens when you go to zero interest, which we were at one point. And that was based on the Fed Reserve. Staffing changes in 25 that will affect the 26 budget, again, include a new town manager. Public Works, we promoted the department director from within, and we replace 4 positions of full-time staff. These changes are reflected in the budget FTE number and the wage numbers, so that when you start looking at it, that's got everybody in there. Employee insurance plan, I've budgeted a 10% overall increase. It looks like the medical will go up about 9%, and the dental and vision will be going up at all. I really do watch that number closely. Every year somebody says, did you go out and did you check it? No, I didn't do it annually. I tend to do it more often than that. I'm talking with other people that do insurance. I'm talking with other towns. What are they looking at? The review has resulted in no change to providers to increase for approximately, we're going to do it about, like I said, 9% for medical, nothing for dental or vision, or in the death and disability is actually based on wages. So that will go up slightly, but not.
Got a question. The state is projecting that health insurance will go up 35% in the last quarter of this year.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah. How did you avoid that?
We're in a pool. We're in the Colorado, I'm going to get the acronym wrong, County Health Pool. And it is basically, we're a municipality, but we have joined the county health pool. And pools tend to do differently than individual insurance rates. We are looking at about a 9% increase. I budgeted about 9% for insurance. I've seen annual increases of 10 to 80%, depending on who you're asking, what you're looking at, what market you're looking at, whether it's the individual purchase or a market that's a regular business or something like that. So I think that's how we're doing it, is we match together with groups that are similar to us. Something that has also helped our plan is that we only have about half of our staff is Public Works, and honestly, that's, our work comp, everything is based on some of those rates of splits like that. And that's one of the reasons that I was also looking at having a certain amount of employees in the water side, because the water and the Public Works driving side, the only thing higher than those are the police officers, because they just cost that much. It's that dangerous of a job. Did you have a? Okay, I just want to make sure. You looked like you might have. Again, we did not change providers this year, but I have been looking at who's out there, what there is. There was actually a survey that went through the clerks just the other day that they were saying our rates are going up 40%. What's everybody else looking at? And when I came through and said we're actually looking at 9% for medical, they all wanted to know who we use. So that got out pretty publicly. Over the course of the years, we've averaged pretty much 5 to 8% right in that market. Some years we don't go up at all. Some years we actually go down. I do things like I change what a definition of a family is. One year it was a family with children, one year it was a family, and then it changed to a family with just a husband, wife, or children. We're back to a family, an employee with a spouse, and a single. I will point out that Rob and I are single on the insurance. That's cheaper for everything. Community organizations have been funded in separate line items, but for example, the Vail Valley Partnership, we're funding at $38.50. I put the account number in the memo if you care to compare it. Childcare, we are in a 3-year product. We are in a 3-year agreement with the Pooh Corner. I think it's still called Pooh Corner. And 26 is the second year. It's a $25,000 commitment. 27 is a $25,000 commitment as well.
Have they given us the list that they were supposed to give us, showing that we had 5 midterm residents that's actually been able to use that? Remember that was part of the agreement, was they would.
They did.
Provide us
They
with
were
the list?
supposed to provide us. I spoke with them in, I think it was July, and they had just lost their finance person, and the director had changed, so they're still a little on their heels. They're coming back. As of that date, they were not at full capacity. So I mean, for us,
And I know that was one of our big
right.
points, was that we would be guaranteed 5 spots for intern residents, and that's why we gave them the money. And
I
I
think
want to make sure that we're getting our end of the bargain on that.
I think we've got 5, roughly 5. But if somebody went in, if I went in and asked, I think I could get in pretty quickly.
I think they did have, what I've heard is that they did have a lot of struggles
Right.
in July.
Right. They had some
And
changes
they
in.
couldn't, take as many kids.
Right. And it's one of those, knowing from daycare that I was treasurer of, you can only have so many you have to have so many adults per infant, and you can have a couple more toddlers, and you can have a couple, I mean, based on the age of the kid, you can get, you're required. And so if you have like 2 adults, you have like 3 infants, but if you have 2 adults, you can have like 15 4-year-olds. So it just, I mean, there are some requirements like that. I don't know if you saw the survey, but a daycare teacher makes half of what a kindergarten teacher makes nationwide. To me, that's pretty appalling. I definitely.
I think they've had more funding issues than anticipated.
Right. There are a lot of reasons, and there are a lot of ways that I've been trying to reach out and help them as much as we can, but I work for the town also, so that's my number 1 commitment. We did, the Minturn Community Fund is at $20,000. Part of that pays for the summer concert series. The Minturn Park is funding at $15,000, and then there's another amount that I've got that we're looking at in the capital fund that we'll get to for 2026. In addition to this, there's a substantial in-kind services. They were talking about the bike park and how our guys were out there with the loaders and the whatnot like that and helping with that. There is a lot of work that is in-kind services. I mean, the general fund, the legal and engineering costs are budgeted at $200,000 a piece. I really want to point that out. A lot of that is due to the developments that are going on. We do have a method where they actually not reimburse, but they pay us for some of the services and the costs of that as part of the permit fees. Depending on the size of it, they might have to keep a retainer on in our books. The point about that is you can't put expenses with the revenue. So there's a revenue line for that, and there's an expense line. This is just the expense. This also does cover engineering and legal for town needs, not just construction use. I was informed, and I've been going back and forth with the guy that told me this from the Union Pacific. Our rate for the municipal lot will go up almost double. It will go from about $25,000 to about 40-something, $40,000 roughly. Consequently, we do have leases for companies that don't have enough parking as required by the code, so they can actually lease into that parking lot. And that covers 40 to 50% of the cost of that. So their costs are going up. I let them know it's not going to be easy.
How many parking spaces do we have in that?
It has everybody asks that. It has 93 is the way we originally set it up. 93 parking spaces. However, Lynn, if you came up and wanted to lease some parking, it does not have, based on the math, we've never reached the top of it. Some days the town needs more parking than other days. Some days the saloon needs more. You know, they're one of those that pay into it.
What would they possibly do with that if we didn't lease it?
We would have to pay for if we did not lease the parking.
What use would that land be to Battle Mountain?
It's the railroad. It would be the same use as the rest of it from beyond what I call the 400 Railroad Avenue, which is the farthest yellow building. I mean, there's an awful lot of railroad tracks down there. That's why Minturn was a depot, is because it's got, I think it's 11 tracks wide. So they could literally have, you know.
They probably could do another conditional use permit, maybe the landscaping company or
Right.
something with it. Yeah.
Did all of our lots lease from them go up? Yeah, I've heard.
Yes,
Anecdotally
and
from all the
I
people
did
who
ask
went
that.
up.
Everybody went up.
Yeah, but
And,
also our one over by Little Beach, and everything is going up.
no, the place we rent, the place we lease at Little Beach is the crossing and a little bit along, because our parking lot is in the right of way. This is actually land that we're leasing to do something other than cross the tracks with. We pay $24,000 for the lease for parking, and we pay $500 to cross to Taylor Street, and we pay $1,000 to cross to the cemetery, to make it so you know what I'm looking at. And the 1,500 hasn't changed in a long time. Each year I budgeted about 4% increase, and that's about what it's been. This year they let me know that it's going to go up quite a bit.
I feel like we should just be making unsolicited offers to buy that, like, on the regular, because if that goes away, we're in trouble.
We
actually tried at one time.
But every time they send it back, so can we buy it yet?
I talked
Can we buy it yet?
Rob and I were actually discussing that just today. I've actually talked, I want to say his name is Andy, but I'm going to get that wrong, at the railroad. And he has said, he's the one that told me that they evaluated everybody's property, and that's why it went up so dramatically, is because they were playing catch up. He also told me, though, our rates were normally going up on January 1 this year, and I think for the future, they'll go up June or July 1st. I'm not sure which one. So we'll have a little bit more of a reprieve this year, but we won't next year, in 27. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, that parking lot will get used a lot more if we kind of cleaned it up, got a better surface on there so there's not potholes all over the place, and organized be able to get a surface there that we can stripe it and be more efficient with the parking spaces.
There's a yin and yang for that. How much do we want to pay on something that we don't own? And the other side of it is we do maintain that quite a bit. What's in the parking lot that is not dirt, it's out of, I-70. If you look carefully, you can actually see some of the little yellow line paintings and stuff like that in it. But that's where it is. We've tried to structure it a little bit by those rope dividers. Those were kind of cool, and they didn't take an awful lot of space. I thought there were 3 lights out there, but I'm not sure how many there are out there. Honestly, it's, you know, I don't like walking through dark parking lots. I don't care where I am, and whether I'm in downtown Denver or Minturn. But it's, so that is a nice added to have a little bit of light in there. I've talked with Mike and we're looking at, can we put some more down there? What do we need to do? It might not be this fall, it might be next spring, but we're definitely looking at, you know, there's a new crew and we'll be able to see what we can, you know, they'll be looking at Mike will be looking at things differently than the others. Not that they did it wrong or indifferent. It's just new eyes. To continue, the bike park will get about 15,000. That's for management, and then we're going to look at another thing in the capital that will help them enhance the what's there. Not to ruin the Christmas present, but Brian, I think you had asked about a toddler thing. That's, I think, what they're looking at doing. And the Strider bike thing.
We're building it right now.
Yeah, okay, well, that's part of some of the money that we're gonna, that's part of the 15 that we're looking at.
Yeah.
It's part of different things, so
Have we looked at maybe seeing if we could get a grant to assist with that?
we have.
We have, okay.
We get the town doesn't necessarily get the grant, but the bike group does, and it's their lifeblood. They know what they're doing, they know how to do it, they're experts at it, and they really know who to ask. And they've been getting grants. You know, that bike park cost a fortune, and it was done well.
I would say actually though, if you look at parks, and even like Eagle kind of proves this, like that's probably the cheapest park in Colorado if you really look at it. Like
Yeah,
it's for what it was, the size and what it was built
wasn't
for.
grants,
thing,
yeah.
It's like Eagles cost closer to, I want to say like 400, 500,000. And then they built a $12 million pool next to it. So yeah, I think it's like one of the cheapest investments in like public parks.
But Brian, that said, I know people in Steamboat that bring their kid down here.
Totally. No,
It's like,
it's amazing.
they've like, this is the greatest thing in the whole world. And if you know what you're looking at, you can go up on the side of the mountains, you can do anything you want. I mean, it's really a cool thing.
So is the 45,000 for what you're doing now then up there, Brian, or is it for something else?
I think it's kind of so we had asked for that last year, and we
put some in for this year.
Yeah.
And
we didn't really do.
And then we're putting some more in for 26.
I don't think we spent what we were talking about last year. We basically, this is what we're trying to. A lot of stuff happened. The trail organization actually bought a property, an office with a garage in Edwards. And so the bike park stuff that was being used for storage is now in Edwards, which is creating space to add more space for kids and park use out here, which is a pretty cool thing.
And one of the things that Brian is talking about is, I know, like the 15 grand, that's a management fee. We pay it every year. Brian knows what's being done. I haven't seen the bill yet. So yeah, we're doing things this year. We're looking at things for next year, but I don't know exactly what the final number will be for 25 because I haven't seen a bill yet. Normally they say, what did you budget? And I say this, they say, well, we spent 300. So we'll take the 45. Thank you. I also want to point out that the Minturn Fitness Center, we went from 5,000 to 7,500. We have a meeting on Tuesday with the Minturn Fitness Board. It's their quarterly meeting. And they might have more requests. They might,
I haven't seen that invite yet. Has it come out yet or not?
It came out quite a while ago, but I'll make sure you get it.
Okay. I know the fitness center board actually is using it too. They've been doing the bookkeeping on it and they've had some staff issues, and so now we had to hire somebody through the fitness center to do the bookkeeping.
Right. The packet will go out on Friday. So that I'll have the Zoom meeting on it, everything as well. But I will make sure that you have, because I didn't see it either, and then I went and looked at it and went, oh, I did see it. I must have missed it. And it came out June or July.
Wow.
I know. So did I. The police and legal department includes the contracted police services. We've gone through this before. We do pay quite a bit of money. It comes out about $400,000. I kind of kept a tally of what we would be at, and we would be closer to $700,000 a year if we had our own department. Part of the issues with that, just to recap for citizens and whatnot, we do have a contract with the sheriff's department, good, bad, or indifferent. We rarely had even one officer when we had our own police department. And the reason is because we couldn't keep staff. And when we did get a staff member, they stayed the prerequisite 6 months, and then we trained them and got them all trained up and ready to go, and they went to the county, or they went to Avon, or they went to Vail, or something. Vail was a more difficult one. I think they were requiring, I don't know if they still are, but they were requiring a bachelor's to be able to work at Vail. You need a 4-year degree. And that, I mean, we had housing here. We always had cops staying here. They always moved out and went to work for the Eagle. We also have a contribution, I think it's $8,000 for the wildland fire program that we help contribute with the county. Yeah, the Front Range Ranger and the wildfire whatnot. The police contract does expire in December of 26, so I kind of told Rob that. I think I might have mentioned. We'll start working on that probably halfway through the year, because it expires December 31st, which our budget takes effect January 1st. So it's really an inopportune time to do it, but that's what we do. The town events and the promotions, if you guys, I want to backtrack a little bit. If you look at the budget number, it says 01, it's 2 digits, and 4 digits. The first 2 are the fund, the second 2 are the department, and the third 4 are the program. So it's, I go, well, X, Y, Z. X is the fund, Y is the program, is the department, and Z is the program. We do have the concert series that comes out of that budget. It's at 150 because we're looking at possibly having a little bit more paid assistance at our events, and maybe even having them operate some of them. Rob, did you want to go down any of that, or are you good with?
Good.
Okay. The Public Works Department, again, I mentioned the 7,500 for the fitness center, and then of course in-kind services. Rob told me that you guys did the xeriscaping, and I went, what a great workout. He kept going, no, this is just moving around. Okay. And then we have 15,000 plus in-kind services to the bike park. The in-kind services might be, the loader or something like that. I asked if you'll turn to number 4, slide 4. You thought I forgot.
That is slide 4.
Oh, it is on slide 4. I can't see that far away. Thank you for whoever said that. Slide 4 represents the salary allocation for the enterprise fund. We're there. As it shows, I've got when we're fully staffed at the Public Works Department. Currently, the Public Works Director will be 50-50, as I said. We will then do probably 25% of a couple of the staff members and 75% of those in the general fund, and then 100% of 2 of them in the enterprise, or in the general fund. My salary is 50% out of both the general fund and enterprise fund. The town manager is 0%. We can look at that again. We'll look at that at the staff level as well. I do want to also point out this is a preliminary budget. We won't approve this. We'll have a public hearing. All I'm asking for tonight is for you guys to just accept it by motion. And that gives me the authority to print the notice of the budget. It gives me the authority to send it to Lynn if she asks, in paper, because Lynn likes it in paper. If anybody wants it in paper, I will more than happy to do it. I do autographs on Monday morning if you want to do something like that. I say that in jest, but it does take quite a bit of time to put some of this stuff together. Slide 4, so, and then the other thing is the enterprise fund pays a total of about 22% of the salaries when you take my 50% and then that kind of thing. So we're close to that 75-25 as it is. The water rates will be discussed. I haven't changed them really. I'm looking at about I think it's a 5% increase on the trash, which hasn't increased in a couple of years. But I'm glad you're still here because I do want to talk about this for a second. The trash bill will go up a little bit. It hasn't gone up for a while. It's $34.98. I think I've got it going to about $37.50. I'm not sure which it is, but I've got it in the budget. I just don't have it in front of me. We're looking at a new contract, actually an extended contract, re-extending the contract that we have with Honeywagon. You've seen the trash cans out here in the lobby. I believe there's only one left because Cindy liked them so much. She used them for the event on Saturday for the recycle and stuff like that. We've got bear resistant, and if you think of your watch, a water resistant watch will stop working if you swim with it too long. A waterproof watch will actually, you can dive in them. I've seen a video of a bear jumping on the big one that's out here it has the little claws on it. And he had a lot of trouble getting it open. He had a lot of trouble breaking it. However, once he did, it became sharp edges. So the other two that were out there and will be out there again, those don't have, the lid doesn't come over the edge. It actually is countersunk into the can itself. The intent is that we will get this going. Yogi Bear is kind of looking at taking a nap for a while, so it might be that we're doing this in April before he actually wakes up again. But the intent is that everybody would get a new bear-proof trash can, and then they would get the old can or the best one that they have. If they've got multiple, that'll move over to be the recycle can, so everybody will get a bigger can. The downside of that is you've got to find a place to put it. Our code, and I want to be real clear with you on this one, our code actually says that you have to secure your can, which means put it in your garage, put it in a shed, put it somewhere, and please don't wrap it in bacon because, I mean, the bear really does like that. And I understand, I am there with you. He starts, and we'll use your house at 272 or whatever it is, he starts there and he just, the next house, he's like the Girl Scout cookie sales. He just goes door to door to door to door, all the way down the street. And once he gets to a can that he can't open, he sort of skips it and doesn't come back. And then he goes a little bit further down. We have had some serious bear problem this year, more so than in other years. It has to do with being dry most of the summer and not enough for them to eat. It has to do with people not securing their can. We did all summer a bear alert program in the newsletters. Here's what the code says. When you call up, and if you were to come up with 10 cans down the street that needed replaced, I probably would say thank you and I would do what I could to do it. However, I do ask the person that has the broken can to call me because that way I can make sure that it's out, that when they come by, that they actually did want it and it's not their neighbor sticking their can next to theirs.
I think we had an extra big, extra strong bear.
We had an extra bear and we had an extra strong one. They were two different.
We had a big bin and a door on the side.
Right.
Yeah, he actually, which was locked, fastened, and he was able to push it open.
I don't live in Minturn. I actually live in Silverthorne. You guys know that. I do want to really be careful. You only have to run faster than the one in front of you, which is normally your dog, and he can outrun you. I'll be very honest with you. I have Irish Wolfhounds, and they don't go near a bear. I literally was putting stuff in the back of our truck that's in the garage, in the driveway, and there was a bear laying in the grass 10 feet from me at my home. Another day I went out and there was a moose that had decided to take up lit there and he was sleeping. These are dangerous animals. They're not fluffy and they're very cute and they're very fluffy, but they're meaner than sin. And, you know, I have 2 Irish Wolfhounds and I have a little Corgi. The Corgi would be an hors d'oeuvre. And he would go looking for Glenn and Judy. Just, I want to be very careful. They are very dangerous. Anyway, to continue, we will be working with the municipal advisor on rate fees, and we've talked about this before, and I don't know what Troy will be saying, but I've always said, let's not increase the rates until we know what we're increasing them for. If we're ready to do the water plant and we know what it's going to cost and we know what the funding is going to be, that's when we need to start looking at it. Getting ahead of the curve is one thing. Not being at the curve even is a totally different animal. And it's scary what could happen to water rates. So we need to husband this well. The other one I want to talk about is the annual H2O water right. This is not maintenance or anything like that. This is an increase of approximately 8% on top of the increase from 23 to 25. That's what we've been looking at. We're at $173,000 for that line item. It covers the Cross Creek flow gauge that's out there in the river. I'll say it now because it was a little bit confusing. I thought even after I read the memo. CBS Viacom pays a third of that stream gauge. They don't pay a third of the augmentation water that we have. The balance of that is the augmentation. We augment with 5, 20, and 50 acre contracts. I believe they are all up on Eagle Park Reservoir now. We actually used to have some over on Wofford Reservoir, and I don't think we have that anymore. We've moved them all up there.
I'm glad you clarified that because I had $173,000 question mark on the Cross Creek flow gauge because I remember Michelle was trying to get the Colorado Water District to pay a portion of that because Viacom was paying a third. We thought they should pay a third and then we'd pay a third, right. And it never panned out. And if I remember right, that number was somewhere around 15 to 20, somewhere in that range. So the difference is the actual augmentation water that we're leasing.
Eagle River agreed in 24 to pay for that. I asked them again and they said no, they wouldn't do it. However, I did bill the Colorado Water Resource, whatever it is.
Conservation
for 10 grand. They had a 24 and 25 contract. They don't have anything for 26, but I'll start looking at that one as well. So we've got some funding coming in addition to that. But
the big portion of it is our leases that we have with the Colorado River District for augmentation water.
That's 173,999 of that 174. I mean it's pretty steep. Yeah. Sorry, I'm tied up in my shoe downstairs. So that covers that one. Slide number 5. This is a chart of expense breakdown. This is the entire general. This is only covering the general and the enterprise fund, but it's combined because, and this kind of gets down to some of the things I've done before where I won't say it's $1 million because honestly, tell me what $1 million looks like. So I'll say it's $1,000. We're spending $100 here, and it breaks out the same percentage. But everybody knows what 1,000 looks like. They don't know what 10 million looks like, or worse. So this takes the enterprise and the general fund, combines it, and it shows your expenses. I will point out that the payroll is about 24% of the total. That is actually one I like to point out. This is showing that our staff is doing an awful lot of work for a very small amount. Certain industries, school districts are the example I always use. They usually run about 75 to 85% of their budget is staff, is payroll. in benefits. Even with our high insurance for employees and whatnot, we're still pretty low. And I will bet you dollars to donuts that if we look at Avon or we look at Vail or we look at our local area right here, they're probably over 30, 40%. We're trying to get everything we can done with anywhere from 5 to 10 people, and volunteers if you want. With the pending needs of the enterprise fund, of the water plant and distribution line work, it'll be important that we save where we can, manage our resources as best we can, and recognize when we need to raise our rates, and not be backfilling, but actually be on our game on that portion of it. Again, and I've mentioned this before, in past years, I'll caveat it with, even when I was here, we had councils that did not want to increase water rates. We had councils for 100 years that didn't want to raise water rates. And we need to maintain our equipment and our property and our assets as best we can, and that takes funding. So I definitely am compassionate with how much it costs to run a water plant, and we have a small population trying to handle this.
I still feel that's why it's very important that we kind of capitalize off of the Highlands to offset this. I mean, I just think that's going to be our savior, really.
I think it's a tool in our work, in our bucket. It might not be the solution. It might not be the total solution.
Could be a Band-Aid, though.
It's duct tape.
Yeah.
It might be even the total solution.
For the water plant, maybe. You never know. We'll find out.
Yeah. I'm very happy that we have Troy, because that gives you one other person to yell at than me if the rates go up too high. Again, maintenance was deferred. There was a question that came up I think somebody asked this, I thought it was at the council level, that said, are they diving the tank? How do they maintain the tanks? I just heard the other day, I think it was last week, that they were, it was last week, because the radio tower that reads the meters wasn't working, and Eagle River called me. And so when I got with John, he said, yeah, they were diving the tank and maintaining it. And I went, what, they don't want to dive it when there's electricity around? But they are diving the tank. They do seal, I call it seal, but they're sealing the leaks. And honestly, if there's 10 leaks, they try to hit them all. If there's 5 leaks the next year, they do that. But it's not something that you do every 5 to 10 years. It's something you might do every year, is dive the tank. And I'm saying tank, but I mean plural. For you guys, the one that says Minturn on it is not a water tank, that's a monument. However, we still call that tank number 1. Tank number 2 is across from Cemetery Bridge up on the hillside. If you know what you're looking at, you can see it. And tank number 3 is a second 600,000 gallon tank, and it's up at the water plant, which is across from the middle school, or the Malloy Park. And with the Conservation Trust Fund is Fund 03. This is the lottery ticket proceeds. Please go out and buy your lottery tickets. We receive from the state this allocation, and we've allowed it to accrue because we make about $12,000 with interest on it a year, and we can do a lot more impact with with 100,000 than we can with 10,000. For anybody that is wondering, we have to do that as a public use. So bike parks, little beach parks, that kind of thing can pay. We can pay for it. It gets sort of dicey, and I don't like to do it this way, but we can pay somebody to mow the lawn, but we can't pay our people to mow the lawn, if you think of it that way. It has to be contract, and I like to look at it as bigger projects. Some of the projects that we've done are the 2 welcome signs those big signs at each end of the town. We've done some other sidewalk park things, and now we can match this with a grant and do quite a bit. If we need a 20% grant, that could be $500,000. So a total of $600,000 toward a project. The special revenue fund is Fund 04. Gusty, that's where the rent from this building and the rent from the 2 apartments that we have upstairs. Some don't know that. We actually have what's three apartments. Rob wants to turn what is an office back into apartments because we're not fully utilizing it and never have as an office space. But that's going to take some work to get it turned back into a 2-bedroom. If anybody wants to see the 3-bedroom, this is the time to come in because it's vacant. It's under construction, but you can definitely see it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. It's a very nice thing to have. We have a 1-bedroom apartment up there, and then we'll go back to a 2-bedroom apartment probably by the spring. Is the goal. That money, then I try to keep 10 to 20 grand in there just so that I've got like a piggy bank if we need it for something. The rest of it I transfer over to the capital fund, which is 06. Madison, if you'll turn it to slide 6. The Fund 05 is the market fund. It's a very small fund. If it doesn't make it's enough money, we backfill it from the general government. It's but it basically is it's the market itself. The events are run out of the general fund. Slide 6, which we have up there, basically it's showing some of the things we've talked about. The bike park, we're looking at $20,000 from the general fund, about $45,000 from the capital 06. The child care is coming out of the general fund. It's a $25,000 commitment. Something, and we'll get to it in the next slide that we're not ready for, is we're looking at another mobile message board kind of thing. And I've got money for that. We've got a couple other items there. If you look at slide 7, this is what we're looking at the capital fund. The capital fund is funded by about $100,000 to $125,000 roughly in rents that go into the Fund 04, and I transfer it into 06, and it goes up also by the construction use tax. Until we pass this tax, when you went to Home Depot, when you bought a $50,000 board package for your home, you paid sales tax on the wood at Home Depot. With this construction use tax, you do not pay tax at Home Depot. You pay tax to the town with your building permit. So the town actually gets that money. Yes, ma'am.
The one thing, what's the impact fee study?
We wanted to allocate some money to look at doing a study for impact fees. I think I've talked with the council as a whole about this before, that it's a little bit surprising to me that we're only charging fees for water. We're not charging impact fees for parks. We're not charging impact fees for streets and roads, the impact that new homes create on existing infrastructure. So I thought that may be something that we could take a look at. It's, I guess, a little unfortunate that we've had quite a few new single family dwellings come online without, a contribution to, because some of those things that we could use those funds for would be like public works. Our 2 Class 8 trucks are very old. I think they're almost 20 years old. Impact fees could be something that could help pay for snowplow equipment, trucks, things of that nature. So when new dwellings come online, they pay their share instead of, existing residents having to subsidize those costs. So we wanted to see if we could allocate some money to study that.
Who does that study?
Usually accounting firms, like Raptillis is a large one that does that for counties and cities across the country. There is one locally in Colorado that I've been trying to have a conversation with about what that cost would be. I know some can do it for 25 to 35,000. The last time I talked to the firm, but that was about a year ago.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
50,000 sounds like a lot for that.
Well, we didn't know how much it was, so I wanted to make sure. I would rather come back and tell you I was wrong, it was 40, than I was wrong, it's 60. So I kind of took a nice round number. I don't know if that's, Rob didn't push back too hard on it, so I think I'm in the neighborhood, but I don't know exactly what it will be. And correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, but a Class A truck is a dump truck.
I was gonna comment on that too, that would probably come in under the 250 too.
And
hopefully, but it's a little alarming, some of the numbers on some of these things. I mean,
CDOT's,
CDOT's.
Yeah, go onto the state website and look underneath, they'll have the breakdown of it, you could look one up.
Well, CDOT's spending almost 560,000 on a fully equipped snow plow truck. So
they have monster.
They got a lot of stuff on
but like
it.
the lowest Class 8s are coming in at like 175, but that's with nothing. That's not with like the dump. That's not with a plow. So the numbers are like shocking, I think, on a lot of these items. The streetlights, that's another one that quote, I saw it and I was like, this is crazy. But I mean, the numbers on a lot of these heavy, durable goods are just very high and changing week by week.
It must have gone up a lot, because the last truck I bought 5 years ago when I retired was 110.
Right.
That was a full dump truck.
I think, unlike a lot of these things, I think our strategy is like, let's kind of get a rough number and then let's really see what we can work on a deal. Me and Mike from Public Works, we had a conversation with McCandless out in Grand Junction earlier this week or last week. And surprisingly, like things have been moving slowly for them. So they still have like 2025 models sitting around. So I think some of this is like, we can wait for a good deal.
But look on state bid too.
Yeah, I printed out the contracts.
Yeah, that's a good resource on it.
I do not like to correct Rob or Michelle or any town manager.
Correct me at any point.
During a public meeting, however, he is wrong. They are not 20 years old. I think the newest one is closer to 30.
I was being optimistic.
Yeah.
And we have never bought a new dump truck. We've never had,
old one.
and old ones cost money, just like new ones.
What's LVP?
Little Beach Park. So Little Beach Park is done in phases. We didn't want the kiddos to not have a playground, so we had to do part of it in the fall this year and part of it in the spring next year. And the intent is to not affect the park operations where we don't have concerts, we don't have, and yet still have something that this thing is a thorn magnet. I mean, a kid touches it and it's horrible. They've gotten so tired of telling me about this at the audit that they do for our insurance that I just bring it up to them and say, yeah, we're working on this. It's in the, and now I can actually say we're looking at replacing it. I've done a few parks, playgrounds. I've done one park. Frisco Elementary School has what they call a Frisco Fun Ground. It's a couple, 4 or 5 acres of park. It's amazing thing for kids. It's got dragons in it and everything, and it's all done with Trex wood, so it lasts forever. I've done one at a daycare, and I've done 2 for the town of Silverthorne when I was on this board there. So basically what you do is you call up Jay's Playground, and I give you a bid on it, and it includes installation, everything, and then you go down and you get Brian and Eric and their kids, or you go to the daycare and you say, hey guys, what do you think of this? And the kids actually get to help design it. Rob and I were talking about it today, and I said, can you imagine Jeff going down there and to the daycare? It'd be like Santa Claus walking into the room. They would love it.
I think to speak to kind of what you talked about, and I think for next year we're trying to figure out where is Public Works at as far as the equipment they have, the infrastructure they have, what investments can we make to improve that. I think there's a desire in the community, and maybe you can speak to this, of Public Works to kind of do a bit more, and particularly with snow removal, be a presence on the weekends. And I've been talking with Mike about that, and I think that's what we're going to aim for. Maybe this winter would be a transition, but going forward that we're going to have the equipment and the people to do it 7 days a week, 24/7.
Honestly, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I really do.
Because I was at Kirby's last week, and just a gentleman just was like, "Hey, like, when are we going to start doing snow on the weekends? Why do we have a contractor?" And I was like, "We're going to look at that. We're going to try to make that a goal and make that happen." I think that's important for the community.
The other thing on here that I gotta say is real important is the crack sealing on our roads.
Yeah.
Just because the moisture in the winter time goes down there, freezes, cracks, breaks it, if you could get it crack sealed before the winter comes, you're gonna save money on the long run having to replace that road, so.
I think there's a lot of maintenance type activities that we can do for a reasonable cost that we got to start looking at.
And it'll save us money in the long run.
Sidewalks and streets in particular.
Yeah.
Maintenance needs to become a priority. And that is with water tanks, that is with gutters. We just need to be making sure that we're maintaining our equipment, because I was shocked to hear that the tank number 2 is nearing the end of its life. I'm like, that was a 50-year tank and it's been 30 years.
I bet a lot of it never got maintenance too for a while. Probably just.
And I remember at one point, I was staying up next to the tank and it was literally squirting out over the top of me. And I'm like, I want to be on the upside of this one at least, not on the downside of the tank. And what we ended up doing is having somebody come in and tighten the bolts and maintain it a little bit, and it helped. So the gray ones that are up there, those are the ones that we're really looking at doing. And honestly, I like to have things broken out. Public Works truck, Public Works dump truck. I probably could have just put in, $100,000, $200,000, $315,000 for trucks. Whether we buy a dump truck or we buy 2 or 3 regular 3/4 ton trucks or even a full ton trucks, we could do that. But we've got 3 trucks that are within 10 years old. Some of them, one of them's just a couple years old. And the other one's about 5 years older than that. And the other one's about 5 years older than the next one down. But we're going to have 4 or 5 people. And to me, and I'm the accountant, guys, I'm not the guy that goes out here. If we come up to an event and we've got 2 guys in a truck and 1 truck, we can't secure both sides of the event, whether if it's on a road or something. To me, I think it's safety wise, it's important. And that was one of the things I had when we were looking at, which we did the MOU with Redcliffe. It's not necessarily having 2 people working, it's having 2 people on site so that it's safe. I mean, then you get to how much can you get done. I mean, and so we do need a couple more vehicles. If we're going to have 5 on staff, I think we should have 4 or 5 trucks, not 2 or 3, because we want people. We don't want to have somebody drive away and take the only truck with the light on top of it when they go and pick up a shovel or something like that for what they're working on. Anyway, then last slide, if anybody's got any questions on the DDA, on the capital fund.
Well, are you saying that the gray is like what we're gonna do?
That's what I'm leaning towards.
I really would love to see the crack sealing. I just think that that's very critical. I mean, it's gonna save us money in the long run.
Maybe we need to talk about refining that number with Mike and seeing what we're really looking at if we're having our crews just rent the equipment and do it.
Yeah.
But I think crack
seal. You might be able to buy the equipment. It's like a tar pot and it heats up and you fill it up, it gets hot and you just go down the street.
And we've done a few times. We've done it here, and it's horrible because by the time we get around to doing it, it's too late. I mean, it's like driving down.
You really got to get it before it freezes. You got to blow all the dirt out, and then you put basically the tar in it.
Right. Okay, if we go to slide 8.
I think on this one though, like I'd like to hear. I'm a board member of the bike association, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the valley. I don't know exactly what they're asking for capital wise. I know they were asking for more ongoing maintenance because we have like real employee costs over there, digging constantly, and there's like some ongoing costs. I don't know what
So
that was their ask.
Their ask was their ask is
they have like a deep explanation, but
right.
Okay.
of like, we want to improve this ramp and then we're bringing this in here. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. Maybe like this one to throw,
Yeah,
and this one to
so we
lift.
can
and-
provide that for you.
I think we'll just.
But the number is
Yeah.
what I was looking at.
Yeah.
And I think that the 45 and the 20 are the numbers that we'll look at for
And
maintenance.
Cindy
or
can
for
break it
ma-
down. 'cause she
Cindy
knows
was the
whole-
one that was in the meeting. I got it from her. Slide 8 is the DDA, the Downtown Development Authority. A couple meetings ago, the town agreed to somewhat backfill 15 grand. I believe it was a year. And if it's not, I'm gonna ask if,
I thought it was a one-time thing.
it can't be.
Honestly, that's the way I felt it was.
I know.
I really did.
And,
I felt it was one time, cause I've made the comment this one time to get you started, and everybody
and
was
I
okay
remember
with
that.
it. Yeah.
And I was like, because I was upstairs doing the minutes on that
No,
one.
I think we're going backwards with this DDA. It's gonna cost our town more money than we're gonna see out of it.
It's going to take it a while to get from tricycle to bike, and then it's gonna take us a while to get the training wheels off. If you look at this, the growth that, we get the base at the town, and then they get a portion of the growth. It's based on the entire 66.222 mills, unless a district has exempted themselves out for some reason. I couldn't see where that had happened. So when I worked the numbers, they're going to come through with the taxes for the DDA of a whopping $251.64 next year. Not a lot can be done with that.
No.
So.
When the distillery gets built, that's gonna be a good funding.
Exactly. There's going to be, and we keep hearing that, and I don't know what the basis of that is gonna now be for us versus what they get, the portion of the growth. Yeah, it'll be some extra money, but it might be, it could be $10,000, $15,000 that they get out of that project, not $150,000 or $200,000. It's not a huge growth like that. And so that's why we do need to have this ongoing conversation.
I can tell you right now, I'm not interested anymore on it. I mean, I point blank got in this room and said 15 for a one-time deal, and if we keep giving 15 every year and they make $254 or $251, seems like we're not doing the right move with having a DDA.
I think if we look at it as maybe an extension of the town government and its ability to do things that the town itself cannot do, then maybe we can find some advantageous roles for it in the next few years where it's not really having revenue to support its own activities. Because the DDA can own, lease, manage property in a way that the town cannot. So if we have interest in kind of looking at that, I think it could provide a
We'd have
benefit.
to see what property is even available to do that on, because it's.
Yeah,
there's
that's
a
true.
lot to choose from in our town. We're not as big as like Denver or somebody that has more inventory to go after.
Well, they're the properties that are listed for sale in the 100 block now, and which aren't selling, like,
Elm's Place.
192, or whatever
Yeah.
it is. And I think though that if it does nothing, it illustrates how much work it will take. This is not an overnight funding thing. It's not something that's an overnight. It is a long-term event.
We knew that going in.
Well, I agree.
Cost, but as it gets enough of a bank account going, they're gonna take over the maintenance of their properties. The town won't be shoveling the sidewalks they
Right.
are. They're gonna pay for all the improvements on their properties.
Right.
And so forth, so long-term, it's gonna be a very good investment, I think.
And
It kind of depends on the amount of development that goes down there too. If it sits stagnant and nothing changes,
Well, yeah, and
then
that's
we're not gonna see that.
Yeah, you're right, and then Rob's already identified why. He ran some numbers that said that the what we worked on for so long, the changes we made in the code still don't justify the expense of the properties.
Yeah, I mean, we have a land value trap situation, but we're not the only ones. But when I talked with the planning staff today, actually, the land use code is the priority of getting that through. But then one of the two things that we want to talk about in the spring is we want to update the housing element. We have to prepare a housing action plan to be compliant with state law. And the other thing was looking at what are the barriers to redevelopment in that area in particular, and what kind of things could we do to support that, and bring that conversation to you, because that is an issue. And I mean, when we had the I don't know if I mentioned that, but we had the managers advisory group at Kirby's, was that last week or the week before? And Sally from Alpine Kind was there, and she's like, yeah, like this store doesn't make money. We don't have that kind of traffic. It doesn't deliver. But she's like, I keep it because it's in Minturn and it provides employee housing. And that's how it makes financial sense. But she's like, if you wanted to try to make this make financial sense, like you'd have to be selling diamonds. And that's kind of a reality. And I think that's something we got to look at and figure out how can we help support them and support new people. But maybe the DDA is a tool to help us do that.
Another thing is, and I mentioned this in hand-holding with like the lease lot that we have, they also might need to look at diversifying how they get some of their income. This might be something that the original idea of the market was not that the town would have a market, but that the town would start this up, foster it, grow it, and then turn it over to another entity that would continue to run it. And the original one was going to be the Minturn Community Fund or something like that. But the idea being, we can develop some of these ideas and raise them to first grade, and then somebody else takes them through.
The problem is the market doesn't make money, it loses money. So nobody wants,
It does help the businesses though.
Right.
It does, but I mean, in terms of doing a handoff.
And I think that's something, that I've been trying to really work at as quickly as possible to figure out what activities and things can we do that can generate some revenue to put back into these funds to support these activities. Because I think they're vital and not all of them are going to generate a direct return. But if we can engage in some activities that give us a net positive to kind of support and reinvest, I think that's what's going to be critical.
I gotta be honest, I think the first Friday's been a hit. I mean, I've tried to hit all of them. There's only one I haven't hit, and every one of them's had an excellent turnout. Don't know if the town makes much money off of it, but it sure kind of showcases the business that it's happening at, which is a good thing because that helps them get, clients or business, and then in return we get sales tax off of that down the road. So I feel that that has been a hit since it started. So.
Right.
But I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more we can do. I think we just got to figure out how to get some of a return.
You should have a First Friday fitness center.
The other thing,
I'm ready.
the other thing I want.
You better be there, Lynn.
We're selling things that the town has.
Okay, good idea.
Well, that's what I
talked about that.
I talked with Tom about one of the things we want to do next year is have a more bit of a town presence at the market, as far as like a booth, and I'm trying to be there as many weekends as we can. But talking about the fitness center, giving people the information to sign up, because I think a lot of people, they just don't know that it's there.
Well, obviously we're getting off track on budget, but that said, we're starting seminar series every other month. Get people out there for topics and subjects they would hopefully be interested in, generate business at the same time.
Okay, well, to Tom's point, if we can go to number 9, it's actually just, does anybody have any other questions? I think we've answered quite a few. I've got some pretty actually good direction. I don't think there are any terrible surprises in this. That's always been my goal. Like I told you, Lynn, I would rather tell you I was wrong. I'm $10,000 low. In my budget, I was high, not low. I always want to be very conservative and very careful about what we're budgeting because we are a small town, and if I screw up, we don't have something else we can do. Oh, well, let's try, we're kind of stuck with that. If we don't do the water plant correctly, we don't do it correctly.
Do we have money budgeted in the event that we need to bring another lawsuit?
We have,
I'm not.
now I'm scared.
Who's suing?
So ask the
I'm
lawyer.
not, I'm
Are you
on
suing
the
us?
subjects that we've discussed in executive session. And we're talking about it
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
in executive session today.
The answer to that is no. We do have some reserves that we could dip into if that were the case. We do, I've had people ask me, so Jay, where's the money hidden? It's not hidden. There are certain line items like, and I'll use as a simple example, there's $200,000 in engineering, there's $200,000 in legal. What if we only spent $100,000 in engineering? Well, if we spent 250 in legal, one hand washes the other. But no, we don't budget for,
Legal covers our town attorney.
I do, yeah.
Which some people would have as a.
It covers the normal Joey stuff, not the Supreme Court stuff. So if this were October of 2025 and you said, you pulled me aside and said, I'm thinking we're going to be looking at something in February, then I'm probably going to come back with a different answer for you tomorrow. And I'll have money set aside for something else. But I was not in any executive session, so I don't know what might have been discussed, and I don't want to discuss it by any means here. However, if we need to, if it's out of a 1 through 10, if this is a 2 or 3 that we need to be careful of, I think we're at a 2 or 3, okay. If this is a 9.5, I need to rethink my thoughts. And that's going to mean maybe that special revenue that we were going to transfer to capital doesn't go there. It does go to the general fund. It might mean that we don't do a project. It might mean that we take savings, something else.
I think we have to respond in real time because we're small, and if the economic situation in January and February is not good and sales tax starts seeing a significant decline, then I think a lot of these things we go, do we really need to do it now?
I seen yesterday Revelle Resorts forecasted that they're gonna be down on like
What's-
3%.
What's been really interesting, and I talked about this in the last managers meeting, is the very expensive towns have seen noticeable declines in sales tax, but other towns such as us is one of them, Leadville, Silverton, and the region are having the best summers that they've ever had. So I think there still is people willing to spend money, but I think they're being a lot more cautious about where, But Avon and Vale are definitely seeing a decline. Luckily, we haven't seen that.
And we have really good restaurants. I mean,
But the decline in passes, I guess there is a 3 to 5% decline in passes this year.
Yeah, that's what they were saying, and there was
It
the
impacts
prior.
us too.
So some of the things that what Rob just said help me sleep at night. However, some of the things that Vail comes out with and says, we're going to be off on that's what keeps me up. I mean,
I guess you gotta just wait it out and see what it does.
right.
So that could all be in the East Coast.
Right.
The whole company on
Oh,
top of
yeah.
maintenance.
But this was just local sales tax, municipal.
Good point.
One of the things I was thinking about doing, just to mention also on this point, is doing a bit of a public campaign about just educating our residents, because a lot of people do order online and ship things here, but when you order the things online and ship them here, that benefits the town, and it's a significant impact. So some people I think don't quite understand how much of an impact is, so I think we're gonna try to do some messaging on that of just ship to Minturn, it's like Costco ship here, Walmart ship here, and it makes a big difference.
I tend to spend quite a bit of time here. I ship a lot of stuff
Ship it all
here.
to Minturn.
It's like, it's easier just to get it here than it is, I think I've got a computer coming in the next couple of
I
days.
had one come last week, so.
I can't remember where they're sending that to, but, okay. If anybody has another question,
I don't know about,
Question, comments?
not on the DDA
I
specifically.
have one comment. Thank you again, Jay, very good job.
Yeah.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
I guess,
little
just,
long.
one thing that we have,
You kept asking questions.
I don't want to spiral this, and we'll go put more magnifying glass on it later, but like I know we are staring down some big increases to water rates and things like that. So I think in general over the next, short term to midterm to long term, we should be like going through the enterprise fund expenses with a fine tooth comb and try to run that thing like as lean as possible. So that
I agree with you on that too. I guess that's why I was bringing up questions with salaries and everything else. It's just, it affects all our ratepayers,
and investing in capital and having a capital improvement plan is important, but just we need to be able to like turn around and say like
Right.
we're like with absolute confidence that we are doing this like as
So
cost effectively as we can.
we've been meeting with five brokers we've met with so far.
Yeah, 5, 6.
And we have a lot better idea about the potential value and usefulness of the Highlands if it were put up for sale with restrictions on it. And we're going to have an executive meeting on that, is my understanding. And the realtors, we have 2 realtors who are going to give a presentation, and I think everybody can ask questions then, and that is very germane to the budget discussion.
Okay, I've really tried to not, I've been watching everybody and I haven't seen anybody, I glaze over. Austin is on the edge of his seat. Thank you.
Already admitted you can't see this far.
I know.
What you're saying that we're moving on to the next item on
Well,
the agenda.
but no, what I need you to do is, in summary, I need you to pass this as a motion. And the motion is actually, accept by motion should be to accept the fiscal year 2026 draft annual budget and and set public hearings at 5:30 on November 5th, 2025 to be held in the council chambers and via Zoom at 302 Pine Street. You can literally say.
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Motion by Kate, second by Gusty. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, you'll
Thank
see
you, Jay.
the notice of the budget in the newspaper and whatnot. And again, if anybody wants a paper copy, if anybody in the community wants to discuss it, I'm here.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the playground subcommittee discussion.
This is really just simple and straightforward. It's kind of what we have for water and what we did with the Highlands. I was just wanting to make sure council's clear and okay with Councilor Rodine and God Health providing some guidance to staff on the public engagement process for the playground. And if there's anybody else that wants to be on that, just let me know. I think it's just easier if sometimes we have the people that are specifically interested in that. We can take it kind of offline and then we can come back to you with whatever we come up with. Is that okay? Perfect.
Sounds good. Cool. Anybody want to?
I'll make a motion to, I don't want to cut you off, Kate.
My
Sorry.
favorite motion. Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Kate, second by Gusty.
There we go. Aye.
Give a stirring presentation of the budget.
I thought it was great.